Testing, testing. Well, this is a session that I'm going to go ahead and record. I'm just going to wait for people to be on, and if they don't join, then they don't join. If they do, they do. I'll put this on Facebook, but I'm sharing with the Slack community. It's been a while since I've done some instruction or some tutoring. So I'm going to be talking about SQL. I did a SQL video on my YouTube channel a while back. This is a continuation of that particular video. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about today is I keep looking over there to make sure somebody's not joining. One of the things we're going to talk about today is how to write select statements that are going to get you data back that you might need to know. So there's a simple select statement. This is a more advanced one, not too advanced, but let me do a new query here. I am using SQL Server Management Studio is what I'm using. And so I have a script here, and I also am running a SQL Server on my box. Let me shut my office door here. Hold on. I'm running a SQL Server on my box it's getting kind of loud there. My AC's going. I'm running a SQL Server on my box, and what I'm doing is I have a script that runs. Actually, let me share my screen. It might help if I share my screen. There we go. Share. Boom. So, put that over there. Make that bigger. Put you over there so I can see. There we go. I'll make this over here. There. Now you can see me talking to myself here. Excuse me. So, sorry, I'm getting over a cold here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a select statement. So getting back into it, a SQL Server is just a collection of data. in a relational database. You can tie that tables in that database to each other. They're just storage mediums, basically. Data in a relational database is broken up into columns and rows, columns being from north to south, rows being east-west. And you want to make sure that your data is unique to each row. So each row of data is unique. We'll get into that. That's called a primary key. But what I did was there is a script that you can go out onto GitHub with, and you can, let me open up that script. Bam. So you can go to GitHub and you can grab this script, and it will create a brand new test database for you. So you can, if you download SQL Server Management Studio, you go to Microsoft, look for SQL Server Management Studio, you can download that. It's free. You just have to make sure that you have a machine that can run it. And if not, there are online versions as well that you can practice with. There's also other free database solutions like MySQL and some Oracle stuff out there. However, what I'm going to do now is I went ahead and built this database. And this is a script that runs, it goes and creates tables for data that you would store data in. And then it also will go through and create all of the key constraints in that table or in this database for every table. We'll get into constraints another time. Then what it does is it populates test data into the table. So you can see in here, this is inserting information into this genre table. And it's also inserting information into a media type table, an artist table, and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I've already run this script, and you can see over here, hopefully, that there's a Chinook database. And if I right click on this and I say new, well, I've already got a query here. Close that query. If I right click over here and I say new query, I can go, if I navigate into the Chinook database and go into the tables, I can see there's a number of tables in there, like we were just kind of talking about: album, artist, customer, employee, genre, invoice, blah, 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 right? So I'll go, the way that so there's 4 operations that you can do on a table in a database. There's select, well, let me phrase it this way. There's an acronym that you can use for database operations, and that acronym is CRUD, C-R-U-D. Let me make that bigger. CRUD. What does CRUD stand for? Well, CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. And in SQL terms, SQL Server terms, or SQL terms, all it create is an insert. So you're inserting new data into a database or a table, right? Usually into a table. Read is where you're going to do a select statement. That means you are getting rows from the table with conditions, usually. An update is where you're going to alter. An update sounds exactly like it does. It's an update. And you're changing data or existing data in the table. So that insert equals new data into a database table. Putting. And then delete sounds exactly like it does. You're going to remove rows from a table or tables. Okay. And there's other keywords that you can use to do that, that are that are more efficient, like truncates and stuff like that. So those are the operations that you can do for a table. And what you do is you use rights for that. Let me post to the Slack community. Okay. So, but basically, again, what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of these operations, and we kind of looked at them in the previous video that I made, but we're going to look at each of these operations, and we're going to perform each of these operations to show you what it looks like to perform each of these. Now, what you have to have, however, is you have to have CRUD rights to a database or to a table or schema. And a schema is basically just a way to collect all of the data, all of the tables into one grouping, right? So, for example, if you think of it, if you had accounting, like fund accounting, you could have accounting over here, you have accounts receivable over here, all the tables for AR receivable, accounts receivable, accounts payable could be over here, and so on and so forth, right? Or collections can have its own schema. So it's just a way to organize all of your data together. So basically, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to create rows. We're going to read rows in the table. We're going to update some rows. We're going to delete some rows. We did this in the last video, but the video, I've blown up some things that you could see here, and I'm actually doing a bit more recording here. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do the simplest way to, or the most used function for a SQL table, and that is the read or the select statement. Select statements can be very simple. Now, you have to keep in mind that a lot of SQL tables have thousands and thousands and thousands of rows of data, sometimes millions and millions of rows of data. So your job as a SQL developer or a data scientist is to make the query run as fast and as efficiently as possible. That is where the select statement and all of the advanced SQL comes into play. Right now, we're looking at very small tables, but I've worked with rows of data and inserted hundreds of thousands of rows of data and millions of rows of data in very short amounts of time, and so on and so forth. Now, why is knowing this very important? Well, as you get throughout your development lifecycle in building on your skill set, you'll find that one of the things that will happen is you will create tables, and then what you'll do is you will read that data either from a table through a service of some kind and then display that information to an end user. Or what you'll do is you will collect data from an end user, write it into a table with some kind of a service, and store that data into a table. So that's why understanding and knowing how SQL works is very important if you're going to be if you're going to be a developer. It will only enhance your skill set, okay? Because it's the data layer. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a really simple select statement, and we're going to get the number of rows for each of these tables. And it's a really simple thing. So we're going to do a select. So selects are formed this way, okay? So you have your keyword, and you have the from, which signifies the table that you want to connect to. And then you have the table name. And then you have possible conditions. And there's other stuff in there that we won't get into tonight, like joins and, you know, outer replies, inner replies, and that kind of stuff, right? So let's do a really, really simple. So in this instance, and every SQL statement usually follows this kind of a format. So you can have select from album, or you can have insert into, you can have update genre, you can have delete from. You'll notice that they have different syntaxes, right? So like I can say insert into album, and you have to have the album ID, the title, the artist ID, values. This has to say insert into album. And then you have the values that you're going to insert into there. So 0, hello world, just a little bit. And then you have another 1, something like that, right? So that would be a good insert, simple insert statement, right? Genre, if we're gonna change the genre, we could set, let's go look at the genre table. Set name to yar, where ID, genre ID, equals 5. You could say delete from employee, where, and you look over here, you can see I'm looking at the format of the table, the columns in the table. So the up, down, the north to south, where last name equals Horton. It's me. Or we can do a select from album. So let's do the first one here. And I'm going to comment this out so I don't do those accidentally. All right. So now let's do a really simple select statement. This is going to get every single row in the table. So I'm going to hit F5 on my keyboard, and I got about 347 rows of data. Simple little query here, right? This doesn't really mean anything to us. We see some title names of something in here. Each album has an album ID, but what's this artist ID? I wonder what that is. So we can select from the artist table as well. Select star from artist. I was going to say album again. What is the star that I'm putting in here? Well, SQL understands the star as what's called a wildcard. And it tells SQL to, when I see a star, give me every column in that table. Now, if I only want specific columns in the table, I have to know what the column names mean or what they are. So I can say, let's say I only want the names in the table. Name. I can say select name from artist. And actually, because it's blue like that, it could be a keyword. I'm going to surround it with these brackets here as not to cause an issue. And if I select just that line of query statement at F5, I get all the names in that table. Okay. Now, let's say I want to only get the names that give me, I only want to pick one artist out of here. So let's pick Buddy Guy. That's where the conditional stuff comes into play. I can say, give me the name from the artist where, you want to use the where keyword to, and that tells the query, says, this is everything that follows this is my conditional statement. Well, name, and I'll put the equals Buddy Guy. Let me put these semicolons. You don't have to have semicolons in Microsoft SQL, but you do have to have them in other languages. And all the semicolon does is just tell SQL, hey, that's the end of the SQL statement. So I'm going to go ahead and hit F5, and it gives me one row back. Let's say I want all of the B's. Well, I can do another keyword called like. I can take all of that out of there, and I can put another wildcard, which is the percent signs, and that will give me all of the B's. Now, this gives me all of the B's, everything that has a B, but I only want the first names with a B, so I'm going to get rid of the wildcard ahead of the B, so I'll get B and everything after B. So let's see what I have there. Now I have everything that starts with a B only. There we go. So this is a conditional. Another conditional, you can put as many conditionals on there that you need. So you can say, give me everything that's like a B, and give me everything where the artist ID is less than 10. And let's see if there's any in there that follow that scenario. 1. And I can even display what the artist ID is. And I hit F5, he's number 9. Let's say I want to get a range of artist IDs with the B. Well, what I can do is I can say, instead of saying and, let me put this on another line here. Make this neat. And artist ID, instead of less than 10, I can say between say 5 and 15. And I run that, gives me all the ones between 5 and 15. So your select statement, again, they can be very complex. I won't get into joins at this time. Because that's a more advanced way to query. A join is basically, you've got data in this table over here. You've got data in this table over here. You keep the data separate because it's important to keep all your data organized. What a join does is it allows you to grab information from this table and information from this table, join it together, and make one query set to get all of the information back that only you need. So there's inner joins, there's left outer joins, there's right outer joins, there's, oh shoot, I'm drawing a blank on the other one. Full joins, cross joins, you know. I'm not an expert on joins. Like I said, SQL is my kryptonite. But I mean, I kind of hold them out a little bit. So again, this is a very, very simple statement where you can use it to grab information out of the table. So let's do a little bit of work here on a select statement here. What we want to do is we want to get all of the artists actually, let's not do that. Let's take that select statement, and I'm going to move it down into my there. And this one, let's move it up and work on this one here. Okay. And how I did that just now is I highlighted that line, and I'm using a Windows-based computer. I highlighted that line, I hit Alt, and I hit up and down keys, arrow keys, and I can move that code around. Learn keyboard shortcuts. They are a godsend, and you will be looked at as a wizard. Inserts are just a way to put data into a table. Okay, so to do that, first though, you want to understand what's in the table that you're trying to insert data into. If it's an existing table, there might already be something like that in there, and if it's got a key in the table, you won't be able to insert into it. What is a key? Well, a key is basically a column or columns that make each row unique in the table. So for example, let's do a look, and you see these little keys over here. I don't know if you can see those. The dark key is a primary key for that table, and the light-skinned key, oh my gosh. The lighter key, or the white key, or the hollow key there, is a foreign key constraint. And so what you can do is you can reference one, that makes the relationship between the two tables. So the album table and the artist table are related to each other by that artist ID. That makes these two tables related, right? And so what you can do is you can query data using your artist ID in your artist table and link to your album ID with joins and stuff like that. But I won't get too much into that one right now. But let's put data into our album table. So first, though, we need to understand what's in the album table. So let's do a select. What I like to do personally is I like to, well, yeah, let's do a select from album. Let's get all the rows in the album, and let's see what's in the table, okay? So let's look down here. We've got album IDs 1 all the way up to 347. So let's say I want to put album 348 in there. I want to give it a name. Let's actually put something in there. Somebody's typing on the Slack here. Okay. Okay. So what we can do is let's look up an album here. Well, let's insert more than one record here. Let's look at the Billboard Top 100 R&B now. R&B charts. Okay, so we're going to put these 5. Expand all of them. No, I don't want to expand all of them. We're going to put these 5. Really? Oh, Lord. Let's see. Yeah, let's put these 5 in here right now. Let's look at past 24 hours though. Okay, so we've got, it's gonna tell me I gotta pay for that again. I ain't trying to have that right now. I think that's ridiculous. That used to be free when I was a kid. You know what? Let's do Billboard Top 100 of all time. Bam. Yeah, let's see you do that, Billboard. Okay, so, oh my goodness. It's gonna make me do it again. I'm gonna grab a screenshot of that real quick before it makes me. Bam, let's do just the top 4 here. Okay. We can close that now because it's trying to get me to pay for that. I'm just trying to put stuff on the table. All right. So we've got our 4 albums that we want to put in there. And these are actually songs. They're not albums, but okay. But we'll put them in there anyway. So how will we do that? Well, we know our last album is 347. And what we can do is we can start this at 348. This is our album ID, and it's got to be unique. So we can start at 348. Instead of putting Hello World, I'm going to put, get out of here. I'm going to put Rockstar in there. Rock Star. And then the artist ID, we've got to put an artist ID in there. So we've got to insert data into another table. And I guarantee you right now that the baby is not in the artist table. So let's look at the artist table. Select all rows from artist. Bam. And we can actually order by name. And that gives us an order. So it's an alphabetical order. So we can go down to the B's, and if I see the baby in here, which he's not in there, I can insert him in there. So let's just get rid of this order by. And we're going to give him the number 276 in here. We're going to do another insert into artist. We're going to do artist ID and name. Values. That lets SQL know what you're putting in there. And we're going to put artist ID 276, comma. And since it's alphanumeric data, we're going to put the single quotes in there. I'm going to put the baby. Just like that. I'm not going to put the Roddy Ricch part in there, but I'm just well, actually, let's put it all in there. Featuring Roddy Ricch, R-I-C-C-H. There we go. So let's put that one ahead of that one. And the reason why we want to do that is because there's a key constraint on our album table. We want to have an artist before we have an album, because you can't link an album unless you know who the artist is. So what we can do is we'll go ahead and highlight these 2 rows, hit F5, and we've inserted a row into each of our table. Now, when we select our album and our artist table, we can go all the way down to the album table. We see Rockstar. We'll go all the way down to the last, and we see the baby featuring Roddy Ricch in there. Okay. Now, the cool thing about this is we can just copy these rows, right? We've already inserted him into these 2 tables. So if I try to do another insert, I'm going to get an error that says, hey, you can't do that because there's already a row in that table and it's a unique row already. Now, if I change these artist and album IDs, I could insert it all day, but why would you want to do that? It's not unique anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the other 3 in there. And that's going to be Juice WRLD. I'm not putting all that in there. Let's see. I'm going to copy this 2 more times. I'm going to copy this 2 more times. And then I'm going to put the artist as The Weeknd. Did I spell that right? Yeah. Jack Harlow. and we're constrained to a number of characters in our album table and our artist table. We can only have 120 characters in there. So we have to be very careful when we try to insert stuff. You make it too long, it's going to blow up on you. Okay. Then we're going to put Juice WRLD. And we're going to give them the next three artist IDs, 277, 278, 279. Now over here, we're going to do 349, 350, 351. And I'm only doing these sequentially because it's just being consistent. You can put whatever you want in there as long as it's unique to the row. Now I'm going to put the Weeknd's Blinding Lights. Then I'm going to put What's Poppin'. Now you're going to wonder why I put two single quotes there, excuse me. It's because a single quote is a special character in SQL. So if you want to put a single quote inside of your column, you got to escape the quote. And then I'm going to put come and go. Come, and I'm going to put and go. And actually, I'm just going to get rid of what's popping in. Let's do it that way. So now we can insert these 6 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now let me take this order by out of here. Order by album ID descending. I'm going to look at the last ones that I just did, and I'm going to put this in alphabetical order. Now, I see come and go, what's popping, and blinding lights in there. And you'll notice I have the artist ID of a 1 in there. So that will allow us to do our update statement next. Let me make sure somebody's not talking to me. No, okay. So obviously I did it on purpose. So then in our album, we see our single quote here, right? So that's where we escape the quote right there. Then in our album, we can look at it in alphabetical order. So we go down to the T's or the J's. We can see Jack Harlow is in there now. We go down to the JU's. There's Juice WRLD. And then the Weeknd's down in the T's. At the bottom, the Weeknd right there. So now what we're going to do, because what we did was we made a mistake here. And I'm going to go ahead and delete these inserts so I don't try to insert data anymore. Actually, let's just move these down, shall we? Space. All right, now we're going to leave the selects out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do an update to fix those lines where the artist IDs are wrong in the album. Because we can see The Weeknd, we can see Juice WRLD, The Baby, and Jack Harlow. So let's do a select statement where we're looking for those 4 in the artist table at the same time. So we can make this conditional, and I'm going to use a condition. And I can say where name equals, and I just come down here and I'll just copy what I got here. And actually, let me just do it this way, where artist ID equals 1. Hold on here. What did I do there? Yeah. Okay. So in this table, we're fine. It's this table that we need to update. So what we're going to do is we're going to update our album. Okay. Keep them on one line here. We're going to set the artist ID. And we're going to grab the artist IDs. Order by artist ID descending. We're going to grab the last ones we did. That'll give us the 4 we added. Okay. So we're going to update the album. So the update, so we've done a create, that's the insert. We've done reads, that's the select. You're going to do a ton of this. We're getting ready to do the updates. We're going to change existing data in our table. So let's go ahead and do that now. So what we're going to do, I've got about 12 minutes here. What we're going to do now with an update is we're going to update our album table and correct our 4 records. So let me do this. And actually, let's do this way. So we can only get the 4 album artist IDs that we need to change. Where artist or album ID is between 348 and 351. So that gives us just those 4 records that we need. Why look through the whole table, right? I mean, it's just a waste of time. And then we're going to do this here. And we'll do the same thing here. Order by where artist ID is greater than 275. So that just gives us the 8 rows back that we need. So it's real simple. So we're going to set our artist ID to this number. And what we need to do is make sure we're matching it up. So we're going to set our artist ID for Juice WRLD, which is 279, to Come and Go, which is album ID 351. So we're at album ID equals 351. We're going to set the artist ID to 279. See that? So 279, which is Juice WRLD over here, gets album 351, which is Come and Go. And then we'll just copy these 4 update statements, or these update statements, and we'll just make the appropriate change. So for artist ID equals 276, we want to give him, because that's the baby, we want to give him 348. Where Jack Harlow, which is 278, we're going to give him What's Poppin', which is 350. 350. And then, of course, Blinding Lights, which is The Weeknd, 277. He gets 349. Let's just put these in order. 276 goes up there. 277 goes up there. 278 goes up there. There we go. We're in order now. So I can highlight these 4, hit F5, and update all 4 rows at the same time. So now, if I hit F5, they're now tied the right way together. And that's all an update is. You're just updating existing information in the table. Now you can use selects and case statements and stuff to update your data, but again, that's for another time. And then finally, we can do a delete. Let's say we don't want to put any of those guys in there. So we can delete from both of those tables. So let's go ahead and move these down, Alt, down arrow. Okay. And let's just do a delete here. All you're going to do is you can use actually this same where clause right here to delete records from the table. So you do delete from the table that you want to delete from, and then you put a condition on it. If you put delete from employee, it's going to delete every row on the table. You don't want that. Okay. So you want to always put a conditional on your where clause. So let's say album, and I'm just going to copy this right here. And I'll just copy this row and do the same thing. Now, not everybody has the ability in a database to delete rows from a table. That's usually something that is administered or administrated by your DBA, which is your database administrator. Your database administrator may only give you the rights to read data. They may not allow you to update and delete data. They can maybe only give you insert and read ability. It's up to the DBA and the organization you may belong to. In this case, this is my table, so I can do what the heck I want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that album, put artist, and then I'm just going to copy this where clause here. And I'm just doing this so you can see two different ways that conditionals might work. So let's do one other thing. Select, we're going to do what's called a select count. All the rows from album. And we'll copy that to artist. And what we're doing is I'm going to give you an idea of how this is going to work. I'm going to hit F5 here. You see we have 351 rows. And I'm going to put this as, I'm going to put an alias on this, as album. And I'll put as, you don't have to put as, but artist count. That just prettifies your column that you've returned back. See how it gives it a name. That way you know what you're looking at. So now I'm ready to go ahead and, I got 5 minutes. Now I'm ready to go ahead and delete all of this data out of these tables that I put in here. So what I can do is I'm going to copy these. So we can see the before and the after. So let's do it. Let's do 2 selects, see the before, delete the rows, and then we're going to do another 2 selects and see what we have after. So hit F5. So these are the befores and these are the afters. If you see, our album count was 351 and 279 before we did our delete. Then we did our delete, and we have deleted 4 rows out of this table, and we deleted 4 rows after this table. So now if I run these 2 queries right here, I'm not going to get any rows back. See? Because those rows no longer exist in my table. That's how you use a delete statement. It's a really simple way to use delete statements right there. Let's put these in the right order. Create, read, update, and delete. So this is your CRUD order here. It creates, there's a read, there's an update, and a delete. So we've done all 4 of these right there. And that is how you basically query a table. It's real simple to do it that way. And again, like I said, you really want to learn SQL. It's just a really good skill to have. Data scientists, look, data scientists make a lot of money doing this stuff. Actuaries, some of them love this level of access into databases and stuff, and they deal with numbers all day. I know an actuary, and dude makes bank, like a lot of bank. So this has been this session. I didn't get anybody to join the session, so it must be everybody's probably sleeping. But I'll put this out there on my YouTube channel. And so if you're encouraged, maybe in the next one, we'll do a little bit more, keyword looking at keywords and kind of go from there. So until then, I'm Alex. Happy coding and have a wonderful, wonderful week and day. Stop sharing my screen. I'm going to stop recording.